KCAA.
Welcome to the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show, created and hosted by Scott Knudsen, to explore the crossroads of horses and business. On today's show, Scott visits with Dr. Barbara Baker. Dr. Barbara Baker is a senior world champion barrel racer and former president and CEO of the Pittsburg Zoo. Now here's your host, Scott Knudsen.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show. I'm your host, Scott Knudsen. Whether you're listening to us on KCAA, the NBC affiliate out in California, or watching our podcast on one of our many platforms, we really appreciate it. Today, we got a very special show for you and a very fun show. We have Dr. Barbara Baker. She is President Emeritus of the and CEO of the Pittsburg Zoo and PPG Aquarium, and she's a world champion barrel racer. Barbara, thank you so much for being on the show.
Oh, I'm delighted to be here. I'm very honored. Thank you so much for having me.
Me too. It's so much fun. And ever since I heard your talk, I couldn't wait for other people that watch the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show to see you. And we met in Dillon, Montana at a great conference. And it was the Horse, Human, and Nature Conference. And it was presented by University of Montana Western and the Montana Center for Horsemanship. And you gave a speech, and I'm still remembering what you talked about. It was so strong. So it was truly a pleasure of the trip to get to meet you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It was a lot of fun. What a place. Oh, my gosh. Yeah. I'm so jealous. I wish I was young again.
Yeah, I'm following them, on their social media, the kids, and they're riding these horses, and you can just see the excitement there. And there was people from all over the world there for the event, for the conference. It was a great time.
Yep, it was.
Man, so let's talk about you. So how did you get into the horse industry, or did you grow up loving horses or riding horses, or both?
I grew up actually on a farm in North Carolina, so you might pick up a little bit of southern accent, even though I'm a northern person now. And so I grew up on a farm in Stanford, North Carolina, and we had the typical cows, horses, pigs, you name it. We didn't have horses until I came along and convinced my daddy. I begged him, I think, 3 years before he finally bought me a pony that bucked me off every ways but backwards, pitched me in a ditch, bit me, kicked me, everything you can possibly think of, that horse did. So it was pretty funny.
Oh, man. But you kept getting back on.
And got back on. I was determined.
That's
Little
awesome.
Red was not going to get me. And so then I ended up being very interested in being a veterinarian. So I went to vet school at Auburn, Alabama, and then was a zoo veterinarian actually for 8.5 years. I started out at the Bronx Zoo in New York City, and then went on to the Lincoln Park Zoo in Chicago. That Bronx Zoo in New York City is still one of my favorite parks. It's just beautiful.
Really?
I mean, it's in the middle of the Bronx, and it's 265 acres in the middle of the Bronx with these big, old, huge trees. Just a wonderful, wonderful park with all these fabulous animals. Yeah, it's really cool. And then I went on to the Lincoln Park Zoo in Chicago, and then down to the Riverbank Zoo in Columbia, South Carolina, before joining the team here 31 years ago.
Congratulations. Yeah, I heard you just retired.
I did. I'm loving it. Yay.
Oh, my goodness. Well, it seems like you lived a lot of people's dreams to get to ride horses growing up and work around all these fabulous animals for your career.
Well, it was fun. The animals are just fabulous. The wild animals. I've been blessed to not only have the opportunity to work in fabulous zoos all across the country, but also to have an opportunity to go, to the wild and travel to, see the animals in the wild and to do projects in the wild and even rescue some animals from the wild. So that's pretty cool as well. So it has been, I've been very blessed.
Wow. So what attracted you to working in zoos as opposed to maybe opening your own veterinarian clinic?
Well, I actually originally was not looking to be a zoo veterinarian. I was going to be a horse doctor, and but Auburn, Alabama had a very active raptor rehabilitation program. For those that don't know, raptors are hawks, owls, eagles, ospreys, kites, and they had a very active program at that. And so I started working with the birds there. And then when I was working with the birds there, then I started working with the Montgomery Zoo and the Birmingham Zoo, helping out with some of their birds, and ended up getting interested in zoos that way. So it wasn't in my plan. I didn't, and when I was growing up, I had no experience with zoos at all.
So cool how that path just kind of opened up for you. It was almost like it was meant to be.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I think so too. I agree.
So how did you go from working on different birds and such to running the Pittsburg Zoo? Because that's an incredible transition.
It's a big change, huh?
It's a huge deal because you know you're dealing with it, but then at the end you're administration, but you're also in charge of the animals and the tourism and everything else.
Everything else, yeah. Some days I wonder why in the world I decided to do that. I mean, because you go from working with all these fabulous animals to working with people, but
right.
No, they're all good. But I was a zoo veterinarian for 8.5 years. And then I became interested. And as a zoo veterinarian, you're working on individual animals. So you're working on, you might be working on a pair of rhino, but you're working on individual animals. You're not working on the species as a whole. And so I wanted to have a larger impact, see if I could have a larger impact on the species as a whole. And so to do that, I had to move up to more of a administrative role, more of a manager's role, rather than working on the individual animals. And so I got my MBA at the University of South Carolina because my husband pointed out that I didn't know how to balance, that I didn't balance my checkbook. He pointed that out to me. Now I can balance my checkbook, but in life you got to have priorities.
Absolutely.
Ride the horse, balance your checkbook. You go ride the horse, right?
Absolutely.
So, but he did point out that I knew nothing about finance or any of that, accounting or any of that kind of stuff. So I went and got my MBA, and then started looking at various different zoos across the country where I thought I could help out and make it a better place. And Pittsburgh turned out to be a perfect fit for us. And so after 31 years, I'm finally retiring.
Wow.
But they had to kick me out. But because I think I probably would have stayed, at least 5 or 6 more years. But it's good. It's very good. And it's a beautiful place. I've been very blessed and had a lot of fun there.
Oh, that's so cool. That's such a great deal. And it's just a testament to your work for sure. But so being the administrator, the president and the CEO of the Pittsburg Zoo, let's talk about that. Let's talk a little business. So how many animals or species were in the zoo? And when
we actually, you mentioned when you introduced me that it was Pittsburg Zoo and PPG Aquarium. So we're only we were one of only 6 zoos in the country, major zoos in the country, that have a major aquarium as part of, on the same grounds as the zoo. And so that was a very unique thing about the zoo. So we have almost 6,000 animals at the zoo.
Wow.
And about 348 different species. So now about 2,000 of those, 2,500 are fish. And we don't count all of them, but we have a lot of fish. We have 43 different tanks of fish, so pretty big.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah.
To keep
and
them all
that
straight.
grew actually, originally when I started at the zoo, we only had 5 endangered species that we were working with. And by the time I left, we had developed programs for 52 endangered species that we were working very heavily with, especially with African elephants. We have a very major program with African elephants that we work with. So,
well, I loved your story in Montana, your elephant story. Would you mind talking a little bit about that, how you went over there the first time?
Oh, that was fun. We went over recently. I think you're referring to when we went, the video I showed.
Yes.
I think.
Yes.
Yeah. So we got a call. It's funny. We got a call from the person who's in charge of the committee that manages the breeding population of elephants in this country, and that's called a Species Survival Plan, or SSP. We got a call from the leader of that, and she said that there were 3 elephants in Botswana who were going to be shot. They were being shot because one of the elephants had been involved in an altercation with a human the trainer of the elephants. And unfortunately, he had gotten a punctured lung. Well, here in Pittsburgh, you'd go to the hospital and they might even not keep you overnight. They'd probably just send you right back home again after treating you, right? But he was so far away from medical care that it took them 2 hours and bumpy roads and bumpy vehicles to get him to the hospital. And unfortunately, he didn't make it. Well, in Botswana and in most of Africa, they have their laws are primarily for wild elephants. They're not for many animals that are actually captive. They don't have many captive elephants in Africa. And the ones they do are usually used for rides riding out on safari so you can see the animals up close. And so they were actually going to shoot these 3 elephants because they had been involved in the death of an individual, a human. And so they wanted to rescue these animals and bring them to the States. And so a wonderful family had saved these animals originally from a cull back in South Africa many years ago. And so they were searching everywhere to try to find somebody to take these animals. And that's how it all came around to get to us. So we got a call and it was like, okay, well, I don't have a clue how you transport an elephant from Botswana, to Pittsburgh. That's a pretty hefty little run, that's a pretty long flight. And so, but we pulled it off in 6 months' time. And it was dicey. It was really interesting because the government was seriously going to shoot these animals. And I had to write a letter every month to the government and tell them of Botswana and tell them that, we were making progress. We had the crates being made and we were having I had booked a plane. You want to get a kick? Book your own 747. I mean, that's fun.
That's a power trip right there.
That's a power trip right there, man. I mean, that's like, oh. But awesome. It was. I mean, what else you can put 3 full-grown?
That's all you can do.
Yeah,
that's all you can do.
And we were loading them, so we loaded them up. We taught them. They trained the elephants to go into crates, and then we got there and we loaded them into crates. They had to be picked up by a big old crane and put on trucks. We had to go 13 hours from Botswana to the Johannesburg airport in South Africa. And then we were able to fly them up to Pittsburgh. And it's a 19-hour flight. So long flight.
Long flight. Yeah, goodness gracious.
First time I'd ever been in the bubble, so that was kind of fun. But the elephants did great. The elephants, they were, one after the other in the plane, and so they couldn't touch each other, but they could smell each other. They could interact with each other. They were completely fine. They were not upset at all. We fed and watered them throughout the trip. We had a little panel where we could open it up and they could put their trunk out. And we could feed them the whole trip. And then we were able to offload them. And boy, that was such a positive thing to see them, in Pittsburgh and to know we made it and that we had rescued them to get them all the way back here was just amazing.
Well, to put something together like that is just incredible. Like you say with the plane, but you're moving 3 elephants in 2 different countries and going to, from Africa to Pittsburgh. That's an incredible feat.
Oh, there was all kinds of problems. You wouldn't think of the problems.
Oh, yeah.
We've got these 2 mahouts. The mahouts are traditionally the trainers of elephants, right?
Okay.
And we've got 2 mahouts. Well, they don't speak English. Neither one of them speak English. So the elephants don't speak English.
Right.
The elephants don't know any commands in English, so we're trying to get visas to get the mahouts to be able to come over to be with the elephants, and we almost didn't get them on the plane because we couldn't get the visas. And but it was because we were going to have 3 elephants that we didn't. I mean, you don't normally speak elephant language like you don't normally speak horse language, but at least they know what whoa means. If you buy a horse, you should make sure they know what whoa means.
Yes.
And so, but the elephants didn't speak any English. So, we had to bring the mahouts over and have them stay for 6 months and teach our staff how to speak to the elephants.
That is so cool. It's such a big task and it's such a high profile task and y'all did it, and that's a pressure play right there. And that's really cool, but it paid off so long. Absolutely. I mean, just to go to governments right there alone is challenging.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
So
and
awesome.
we're crossing borders. So we're crossing borders. Our big concerns on the elephants. We're crossing borders between Botswana and South Africa, and were we going to be given trouble there? What was going to happen? Did we have all our papers in line? It was something. It took a good solid 6 months of training of planning, but we got them home.
You got it done.
And since then, we have a calf on the ground right now from one of them. So
how exciting. Cool is that? Yes, absolutely. It's so cool what you just said. You're on this plane and you just slide the window and there's an elephant trunk and you're flying back to Pittsburgh. That's a cool story, but it shows people you can do almost anything, if not everything, if you put your mind to it and you make a plan and you work it.
Scott will be right back with more from Dr. Barbara Baker.
Hi, I'm Scott Knutson, host of the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show. Today, we're going to talk about something I'm really passionate about. Those that know me know I love my coffee. Those that don't, now you know I do. And we've been working on this for several months, and we wanted to get it just right. And we don't put our name on anything unless we feel 100% certain it's the best product we can get. And we've done it. I really believe we've done it. We've created a coffee line, 13 great flavors. I'm going to show you 3 of them. We have K-Cups in all 13 flavors. Here's a Jamaican Me Crazy. It's just a really great coffee. Everyone has great logos. It has a brand, the same brand that's on our horses, our trailers. That brand means something, and we wouldn't put it on here if it wasn't good coffee. We have whole bean. This is a great Honduran blend, and it's a whole bean coffee. We have whole bean in all 13 flavors. And then we have a ground coffee. This is a really great one. My wife and I really like this a lot, loved it, so we named it after our daughter, Haley's Blend. Everyone has the packaging and the logo of the show, our brand, and I hope you like it. I really believe you will, and we're going to have more flavors coming out soon. We're going to have the pumpkin spices, and then we're going to go to peppermint after that. And please send us your suggestions as well. You can find it at cowboyentrepreneur.shop. Think coffee shop, cowboyentrepreneur.shop. Thank you so much.
We have a lot of entrepreneurs out here that watch our show or listen to us on KCAA, and they're wondering, how can we tackle something? And you did it in a magnificent way. So what would you tell them? So if there's somebody watching and they have a business, whether it's, whatever it is, and it's an entrepreneur, how do you tell someone to tackle something? Maybe not as extravagant or as grand as what you did with the elephants, but how can they tackle something in their business?
Well, I think when you look at your business, what I think people don't tend to want to do because they want to stand on their own and want to prove they can do something. But one of the things that I have learned the hard way is that you call on your friends. You really do. When you're tackling something that you don't know how to do and you don't know what to do, then you ask for help. I mean, there's so many people in the barrel racing world, and I barrel race, and there's so many people in the barrel racing world that are scared to talk to, some of the big name people. And certainly you don't want to talk to them when they're getting ready to make the run. But when we're just sitting around the trailer or people are just sitting around, they always are willing to try to help or to, give you some advice or whatever. And the same is true in business. I had no clue how to, I don't rent planes. I have no idea how to move an elephant. I called up a friend of mine who runs international international animal exchange business. And I called her up and I said, I need to get 3 elephants out of Botswana. Who do I call?
I love that.
Because I don't know anything about it. And she said, you come to the right place. And I'm like, great, yay, help me. And by the way, we got to do it fast.
Yeah, really fast. Yeah, there was pressure for the elephants too,
Oh yeah.
Such a cool story. So with the customers or your visitors at the zoo, I know you almost doubled it, if not doubled the amount of visitors, and it's one of the top attractions in the region, the Pittsburg Zoo, the PPG Aquarium.
Yep.
How do you do that? Because it was good, and you start adding to it. What's your business plan?
Well, what we did actually was a number of things. One was that when I took over at the zoo, I was originally working for the city of Pittsburgh. And so we started out with the city of Pittsburgh. Now, with a budget from the city's focus is really on fire and water and police and all those kind of things, right? And not on really running a zoo. So we privatized the zoo about 4 years after I came on board. And that allowed us then to bring in a lot more community support, because some people are a little nervous about funding government kind of things, but they'll fund the zoo by itself. And then we were also able to go out and get a lot more help. And through that, then we were able to have the funds and the availability to do marketing and PR and get the word out. You know, back then we didn't have social media like we do now. You know, so you really had to rely on TV and radio and printed ads, you know, that don't hardly exist anymore. But, you know, that was so very, very important at that time. And then we also, what we did was we put together what's called a regional asset district, which is a taxing entity that funds 1% sales tax, funds all of the cultural entities in Pittsburgh. So we put that together, so that we could also have additional funding. So through that additional funding, then we were able to build new exhibits, create excitement, tell people about it, because you can build anything new, but if people don't know about it, they're not going to come.
Absolutely.
You know, or whatever program you're doing, you know. So, and we kept marketing and developing more PR and having positive stories. I think that's the other thing you've got to do as an entrepreneurial and as a business person. You've got to have integrity. You've got to have trust. People have to believe you. They have to trust in you, and you've got to be a good salesman, for lack of a better way to put it. You know, even in the zoo world, it's just, you're selling a recreational visit for people to come, or you're selling a conservation program for people to support conservation in Africa, or you're supporting a new exhibit and trying to find support for that. So you're constantly trying to excite people about what you're excited about.
Yeah, I love that. You're just selling your passion. And
exactly.
Yeah, I love that. So what was one of your favorite outreaches? Was it Christmas, or was it where the classrooms were able to adopt an animal, or what was something that was really just a fun, feel-good kind of deal?
Well, one of the things we do at the zoo, which is kind of a fun, feel-good thing, if you talk about it, is we have during the winter, because we do have a little bit of winter up here in Pittsburgh.
You do.
Just a little bit. You know, we have penguin walks. So the penguins love coming out in the snow. They just love coming out in the snow, right? But they can only come out if it's 40 degrees or below. And so we started in the winter months when it's 40 degrees below, we walk the penguins outside. So we'd walk them right out of their exhibit, right outside, right down the public pathway, and then we'll walk them back up again. And people love it. They absolutely will come out. I mean, like there'll be, you know, 1,000 people out, and it'll be 20 degrees outside. And I'm looking at them going, I'm going out there to see a penguin. But they come because it's just so cool to see them walking around.
But see, I love that entrepreneurial mind you have, and just, you know, finding a solution, you know, for during the winter, what are we going to do? And just, let's have a penguin walk. I love the uniqueness of it and the simplicity, but it's so powerful. It works.
Well, what I tried to look at was, and we did this in a lot of exhibits we did too, is what, if it excites the staff, if it excites us, and we had done the penguin walks before the visitors came on grounds, you know. And one day we looked at each other and said, well, why don't we do them when the visitors are here, you know? And, you know, can we control it? Because the birds are like toddlers. They just go wherever they want to go. You know, they just go wherever they want. They waddle off, and you got to try to catch up with them, you know?
Yeah, some of my buddies are like that.
And so you got to try to keep up with them. And so they just kind of wander off. And so we kind of looked at things that if it excited us and we thought it was cool, then people thought it was cool, you know.
That's awesome.
So a lot of the things that we did, we incorporated that. There was we had a fence line behind a bunch of bushes at our tiger exhibit, and one of our staff members would sneak back there and look at the tigers. And I'm looking I caught him back there one day, and I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "There's a great view of the tigers. It's really close. You're right nose to nose." And I'm like, "You're really not supposed to be nose to nose with the tiger. You do realize that, right?" Because this fellow was the COO. He wasn't like an animal person, And so what we ended up doing was we actually developed a viewing window there. So and then the tiger does walk straight at you and nose to nose with you. And so those types of experiences were the things that if it excited us and it was good for the animal, like the penguin walks, penguins love the walks,
right?
Then it was a win-win all around.
So smart, but it's so much fun.
Yeah,
it's so much fun, coming up with a solution that is like that, and like the CEO seeing this is a great view, but you're wise enough to say, let's make it a public view, and you fix it. That's awesome. And that's a great lesson for any entrepreneur watching. If you find something that works, don't be afraid to do it.
Right. Yeah. If it excites you, then it's liable to also incite your market.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So working with birds, and now you transported the elephants, and you have all these things going on. So what was one of your favorite animals at the zoo?
Oh my gosh, it's hard to say, because we have a fabulous collection of tigers. They're one of the most beautiful cats in the world. Just wonderful, wonderful animals. We've got great rhinos at our zoo. We breed black rhinos. And
awesome.
So they are fabulous, fabulous animals. And scaredest I've ever been was in the wild. We were in Africa one time, and we were doing a research project and we were actually collecting rhino semen, to freeze, to bring back to the States, to bring in new bloodlines. And so we had tranquilized this one rhino. And normally when you reverse the tranquilization, the animal gets up kind of slow. Well, this rhino didn't get up kind of slow.
Oh, no.
The needle was still in his ear, and he's standing up, popping up, and madder than a hornet, because black rhinos are madder than hornet. They're like Arabian horses, just hot. And so he popped up, spun around, came flying at us, and I've never run so fast in my life. And there were 3 people in front of me, and we were all hauling butt for the truck, and just jumped over the side and dove in and landed in a big pile together. But and he hit the side of the truck, but fortunately everything was okay. But
oh my goodness,
they can run. They're like Arabian horses, but they're more like quarter horses. They're sprinters. They can run really fast for a short period of time. So
gotcha.
Black rhinos can. So, and they have very poor eyesight. So they just they hit something and go, "What was that?"
Yeah. So they'll run really fast over you and they won't realize it.
Right. They won't know. Yeah. They have no idea. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Octopuses, you wouldn't know it, but octopuses are one of the most intelligent animals that we work with. And octopuses we have fun with them because, you'll put a jar in there and we'll put something in the jar for them to play with. And they'll unscrew the lid of the jar and, open it up, take the lid off, get down inside of it, pull whatever's out, and play with it for hours.
Oh my goodness. How cool is that?
Yeah, they're very, very smart animals. You wouldn't think so.
You wouldn't, not at all.
No, not at all.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Thank you for listening to the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show. Scott will be right back with more from Dr. Barbara Baker. For more information on Scott Knudsen, the Cowboy Entrepreneur, visit us online at cowboyentrepreneur.com.
Awesome. So natural horsemanship. I heard you talking about that with some of your animals, with the elephants and maybe some of the other animals. So this is another thing for the entrepreneurs and other people is figuring out solutions for problems, or maybe not even problems, but just to do things easier.
Right.
Would you talk a little bit about how you came up with that? Because that's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Well, I don't know about that, but
man.
We were blessed with a very, very good elephant manager, Willie Tyson. And Willie's a good friend of mine. And he was teaching me about how he works with elephants. And I realized as And about the same time, natural horsemanship was starting to become known in our industry. And we were starting to see more and more horse people talking about natural horsemanship. So this was 15 years ago, you know. And so we were really starting to see that. And I was paying attention to it because I liked it a lot and I liked the philosophies a lot. And so I was trying to figure out a way to encapsulate what Willie does, because Willie does natural horsemanship with his elephants. That's exactly what he does. He watches body language and he figures out what the animal's going to do with that body language. And then he uses that to try to figure out how to best manage the animals and how to take care of them and how to have them do what he wants them to do, right? So building a relationship with the animals and having the animals respect and trust you, you know. And when you have an animal that weighs anywhere from 8,600 to, 11,000 pounds, and is 10 and a half feet tall, you need to figure out ways to work with that animal. And
Right.
certainly being abusive to the animal is not the way to get it done.
No.
That's not going to work with an elephant. No way.
No.
So we were looking at ways to try to train the next generation of people to be elephant trainers and elephant handlers and to work with their animals. So I literally went all over the country looking at different programs. I went to a John Lyons program, and his program was primarily based in the saddle. And I really needed a program that was based at Liberty, So I talked to actually Monty Roberts. I talked to Monty Roberts, fabulous person. But he was in England at the time, so he couldn't help us out. And he was going to be there for a while. And so he was very supportive, but, he couldn't help. So then I came upon a Pat Pirelli program and went to it down in Florida. And there we were. Now we were working at Liberty, we're working with a lot of times without the halter even. And we were trying to get the horse to do things that we wanted to do. And that seemed to have a lot more application to it. So then, of course, then I had to figure out, well, how do we apply it to the zoo? So I found this wonderful trainer, Jesse Peters, who's over in Greenville, Ohio. And Jesse, by far, is the best adult educator I've ever met in my life. I mean, Jesse's just fabulous. He looks just like Woody from Toy Story. I mean, he's like I'm serious. He's 6 feet 7 inches tall. Then he has a hat on, so he's huge. I'm this little dinky thing. And then he dresses like the cowboy. He looks so much like Woody. It's hilarious. But
awesome.
He's great. He's awesome. He's so good with adults. And he's now working with Linda Pirelli with her program. But Jesse came over and we talked for a while and we looked at how we could apply. And Jesse's first comment was, I don't know anything about elephants. I don't want to be an elephant trainer, and I'm like, well, that's good because we don't want you to be.
We got that.
We got that, Barb. Yeah. We want to figure out how to train the next generation. And so it was really fun. So he said, well, I'll show you my program. We'll go through it. We'll take some classes. So we first started out with the elephant keepers. And we ran them through a program where we had morning classes where we would sit down in a classroom at the zoo and have a morning class. And then in the afternoon, we'd take them to the barn and work with the horses. And it was pretty funny. I tell you, I've got some great pictures because, 99% of the people at the zoo had never worked with a horse before. Never worked with a horse. And certainly not, worked with one they never met before.
Right.
But we would take them to the barn and we'd put them in a stall with a horse and we'd explain how you put the halter on and they'd be like, oh, no, that thing's on.
Isn't that funny?
Isn't that funny? People who work with elephants, and they're like, I don't want to go in that stall, we had a fabulous time. And so we trained, we started out with the elephant keepers. And then I thought, this has a lot of application for how we treat all of our animals, because all of our animals basically are at liberty, right? We don't have a halter or a lead rope on any of our animals. And so I started expanding it to the rhino keepers, to the hoofstock keepers, the zebras, the impalas, gazelles, all those kind of things, and then on out to the rest of the even the cat keepers, and everybody started getting involved. And then we started getting people requesting to go. I want to go to the training program. I want to, everybody's talking about it. I want to go. And so we had a beginner's course where, the first time people would go, and then we'd have a continuing education course where people could learn more and go. And so basically they would learn about how a horse thinks, and then they'd have to put it together with how a human thinks and try to communicate. And it was so much fun because you had these people on the end of the lead line, and they've got a horse at the other end of it. And we tell them, okay, now walk it out into this arena. And now you're going to do these, we want you to walk over this tarp and jump over that thing. And, we want you to stand on this thing and make it go around in circles. And they've never seen a horse before.
I love it. I love it.
Oh, they're like, so, yeah. Which is funny because, you're dealing with people that, work with tigers and lions.
Yeah, that's what's so funny about it. They're used to these exotic animals and a horse. But I guess it's what you're used to, Yeah, but I guess it goes back to business. It's what you're used to, and you get out of your zone. It's kind of uncomfortable a little bit.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And especially because you on top of that, the thing that intrigued me about it was that it makes you think differently about your leadership skills.
Yes, absolutely.
You have to think differently about your leadership skills. Right. I can't tell that horse, hey, I'm president and CEO, so get your butt over there. It doesn't work with the horse.
Doesn't work. No.
Looking at me going, I don't know what she said. I don't like the tone.
I love it.
So I'm leaving.
I love it. So creating this, this natural, and running your employees through it, and then they're asking to be educated. That's a mind shift when you can take your entire staff and have them change mentally and ask to be educated and trained and go through classes, because that's a fight for a lot of businesses.
Oh yeah, it was really funny because I had people from every single department. So our whole maintenance department went through it, our horticulture department, our accounting department, our CFO. Our CFO had never seen a horse before.
Oh my!
And in person,
Right.
Never seen a horse in person, And here she is. She's like, I don't know what to do. And they don't speak the language. They don't know what the horse needs. They don't know what language the horse speaks. They don't know what commands to use. And they've got to figure out how to up their leadership so that they can make this work. And so it was very, very good from a standpoint of, it's very hard to find adult education programs that are interesting, where you're not just sitting in a classroom for 8 hours, filling out sheets and workbooks on the wall and that sort of stuff, and where you're challenged,
Absolutely.
You're literally challenged. And so when you take people that are in accounting or in, marketing or PR or, horticulture or grounds or whatever, or even aquarium, and you put them with a horse and say, now you need to be the leader. And on top of that, we cheated because Jesse and I knew our horses, right? Because we used his horses and my horses. And so we would pick which horse we were going to put with people. And then we would rotate people around. So, if we had a smart aleck who knew it all, and, I know everything about leadership, and, I'm not going to learn anything about leadership from you guys. I'm just coming because Barbara says I got to. And, we put them with the, 6-month-old filly that didn't know squat,
Yeah, that'll humble you.
Yep, it was full of fighting vinegar, just ready to go. So,
Well, yeah. I loved how all the employees, even accounting, in the aquarium, had that relationship. They all been through something together. That's really cool. They had something in common.
Yeah, we have a staff of about full-time, usually right around 140, 148 people. And we had over 160 go through the program. So it was pretty cool over the course of the many years that we did it. So,
That's awesome. I bet that was so much fun to watch. It's so funny. So
there were a lot
funny.
of funny things.
I
Yeah.
bet so. I bet so. So you were one of the youngest CEOs in the zoo industry. And so what's some advice for somebody that's young that's maybe starting their own business or maybe they're becoming a CEO of a business? How did you do that and accept that challenge and then lift your zoo to the top?
Well, I think that you learn as you go. So you
Mhm.
certainly learn a tremendous amount when you're first president and CEO. You make a lot of mistakes. I think the key thing is to continue to not get frustrated about your
Mhm.
mistakes because everybody makes them, whether
Right.
they admit to them or not,
Right.
especially when you're young and you're starting out. I think it's key. I think it's key to almost from a perspective of the natural horsemanship, not be, for lack of a better term, uh, on a power trip, but
Yeah.
rather be someone who has a job to do and wants to get that job done in the best way they can. And so we always told our employees to park their egos at the door,
Love it.
and the drama, because I didn't
Yeah.
like drama.
No,
Park
no.
park the drama and the ego at the door, and we got a job and we want to get it done. And so let's figure out how we can get it done, and work together. I think that's key. And communicate, communicate, communicate. I
Right.
mean, that's so important. You cannot possibly communicate too much from the top.
Right.
I mean, I could talk 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and still not communicate enough to really reach every single person within the organization that wants to be reached. So it's a very challenging role. Yeah.
It is. Yeah, but you're good at it. And plus, I think you being down there with your horses, training these guys on natural horsemanship and you being around them and going on penguin walks and coming up with ideas. And the CEO's got an idea and you're there. I think you're so accessible. I think that's a part of it.
I think that's huge. I think that you can't. It's very, very easy, especially today, to get locked in your office or to get
Yeah,
locked behind the computer and spend all day long on emails, and
I
not get
agree.
outside. Yeah, not get out with your customers, not get out with your visitors, not get out with your staff. And that's really what a leader needs to do more than anything,
Agree.
is to do that. Yeah.
I
So
agree.
I would try to walk the zoo grounds in the morning before everything got crazy,
Right.
because before everything started to hit,
Yeah.
because otherwise you get caught up with meetings and meetings and meetings and meetings.
Makes sense. Yeah, yeah, definitely. You got to get out there. It's your business. I love that.
Yeah.
So you're a world champion barrel racer. So we're going to talk horses and barrel races. I love I like business a lot. I love business, but I really have a passion for horses. So, world champion barrel racer. So how did you start barrel racing? So from the time your horse was training you when you were younger and you were getting back on to becoming a world champion.
Well, I always rode. I rode my entire life, but I just
Okay.
trail. I did not barrel race. And then one of my daughters, we have 7 kids.
Awesome. Yeah, there you go. Communicate, communicate, communicate.
Communicate, communicate, communicate. But yeah, we have 7 kids, and one of my daughters was interested in barrel racing. She had tried the showmanship and all that kind of stuff, and then one day she went to a fun race and ran barrels, and it was over. She's like, I ain't painting any more toenails anymore. I'm not watching any horses. I'm getting on my pony and running as fast as I can. And
Awesome.
so
Awesome.
we were into barrel racing, and so we got lucky enough to hook up with a world famous trainer, Sue Bologna, who won the Fort Smith Futurity many years ago. And Sue lives right up the road from us, and so we started training there. When Casey, my daughter, though, went off to college, she's one of these kind of been there, done that girls. So she's like, uh, I said, well, you want me to keep your horse in shape, and I'll ride it. I'll ride him during the winter, and then you can come home. No, Mom, I'm kind of done. I'm done with that. I'm like, oh crap, okay, because now we have the living horse trailer. We got everything, and I'm like, okay, all right. So I took the horse up to Sue's, my trainer, and I said, and the trailer, and I said, Sue, I need you to help me sell this horse and this trailer. And she's like, no, 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 no. You can ride that horse. And I'm like, no, 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 no. That horse is crazy. Had all kinds of alley issues, Like, no way. But she was very persuasive.
Yeah.
And so she talked me into it. And so I've been running now since 2009. And just for fun, I just have a good time. I've just been really blessed with really good horses. So the Lord's been very good to me in that department. I don't know why.
Yeah, well, you got a lot of talent too.
No. I just hang on to that horn. That horn is your friend. I hang on to that horn.
Your best friend. Your best friend. So what's that on the wall back there with the bow?
Oh, that actually is a cool thing. A friend of mine made that for me. It's it's all made out of horseshoes. So it's a horseshoe belt holder. So it's a belt buckle holder. And so it's all horseshoes and horse nails, all welded together. And then those are some belt buckles I won over the years.
Congratulations. That is so cool.
Yeah, I thought it was really, really neat because I couldn't find anything to go up the pipe. You see, we've got a wood burning stove, and I couldn't find anything to go up there to hold the belt buckles. So I thought that would be fun. So yeah, it worked out pretty cool.
Absolutely. You just went out and won some races and got you something on the wall.
Got me something on the wall.
So I guess you ride quarter horses.
I do. Yeah, I actually ride a paint. So I've had quarter horses. Right now I'm riding a paint. My world champion is a paint. And ironically, he's 19. He'll be 20 this year. So I'm looking for a new one now. But and he's been great. He was actually a horse I hauled many, many years for the little girl that owned him. And then when she went off to college, her dad called me and said, you're the only person I'd want to have him. And so I rode him, and we've been very blessed. He just loves the pen at Worlds, NBHA Worlds. And so down in Perry, Georgia, it's a beautiful facility. And so we've been very blessed down there.
That is so neat. So neat. So I think we were talking and you're kind of telling me your turnout. So you run for a while, then you kick them out for a while, and that'll be a horse?
Yeah, I do. Well, it is winter in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And so it's not so much fun to ride in winter in Pittsburgh unless you have an indoor, and I don't. So, but what I've always tried to do with my horses is that our season kind of runs from March through Worlds. Our last race is Worlds, which is the last week of October, first week of November. And then I let them be horses. I kick them out on the pasture, and I let them be horses until the 1st of March again, early March, according to weather around here, March, mid-March, and 1st of April. And then so they get that whole time off. So I pull the shoes and, let them be horses. And that works out really well for them. And I think that has built into the longevity I've had with my horse, because I got him when he was 14, and now he's 19 going on 20. And last year he ran faster at he ran the fastest times we've ever run at Worlds. So he ran 2:15.0s. I'm like, what are you doing?
Oh my goodness.
You're old.
Oh, come on. That's smoking it.
Yeah.
That is smoking it. Well, it has to be something to your ability for riding and that horse's mentality and heart. But also, I think laying them off that long and letting them be a horse and rest up, I think that has to have something to do with it.
Well, I think the other thing that has a lot to do with it too is the horsemanship, the natural horsemanship, whatever, clinician that you lose to learn that. But the natural horsemanship teaches you how to read and understand the horse that you have. And so, I had one horse, one of my barrel racing horses, the very first one I started out with, you literally could not ride her. I never rode her. You believe that?
I'm trying
I tried to ride that horse, but I could never ride that horse.
How come? How come?
She had been blown up as a futurity horse.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing against futurities, but she had been blown up, and she had not been treated like a horse. So for 9 years, she was not put with another horse because she was too valuable a horse to
my.
be with another horse for 9 years, And so I got her, and Jesse helped me figure out that she was literally catatonic. She was just so locked down that you couldn't get her to do anything. But if you got on her, she was just, flat out, go as fast as she possibly could. And she
Right.
had no in between. I literally, Scott, tried for a year and a half to get that horse to trail ride. A year and a half to get that horse to trail ride.
Wow.
And never could. So, but barrel racing, she was great. She was like
Right.
riding a horse. It was amazing. So what I would do is I would pony her to condition her, to get her in shape. And we'd pony for 3 to 5 miles when I was getting her in shape. And then when I went to the barrel race, I would lunge her. And then I'd get on her the horse before. When the horse in front of me went
Right.
down the alleyway, I
Right.
would get on her. And then I would go down the alleyway, make my run, come back down, and get off her again. You could not ride that horse. But in the arena, in the barrel pattern, that was her zone. That was her comfort zone.
That was her job.
Loved it. She
Yeah.
absolutely loved running. And it was like riding a Porsche. It's the only horse I've ever barrel raced on. Most of the pictures you see with people on barrel racing, they're grimacing because, they're trying to hang on so bad.
Yeah.
She's the only one that I smiled going around the barrels because it was just so smooth.
But see, it was worth that effort, and you figuring that out. What
You
it
have to
took.
figure that out. Yeah, you have to. So like with my horse I'm running right now, he's a I'm not okay. Are you okay horse? Right? I'm not okay. I'm not okay. So, you have to have him away from the pen. You can't have him up at the arena. You've got to warm him up away from the pen as far away as you can get. And then you bring him up to the pen when it's time. So, I take him back to the stall. I let him rest for a minute. I rest for a minute, pray, have a little sleep.
Absolutely.
Don't fall off, don't fall down. Don't let me fall off, don't let me fall down. And so, because we've done both. And
Right.
so, and then I get back on and we go make a run. And so it's just understanding what your horse needs to set him up to succeed. If you can figure out what your horse needs, what your horse's personality is, what he needs to be most comfortable to go in there and enjoy his job, then it can work out very well for you.
I love that so much because it's showing patience and just watching your horse and letting your horse tell you what he wants or she wants to be a better horse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And a lot of people, and it's no disrespect, but they'll get on a horse, try it a few times, say it's not for me. But you take that time and effort, you figure out the best pattern, the best way to work them, and it usually works out.
Yeah. Well, I just recently tried out a barrel horse, because like I said, my horse is 20 now, so he's not going to run forever. Although I can't convince him of that, but he could slow down a little bit. I'd be fine in the 3D. I don't have to be in 1D. I'd be fine in the 3D. But no, he wants to be in 1D.
No.
But anyway, I just tried out a horse, and the people said, where do you want to set up barrels, blah, blah, blah. And I said, yeah, I had watched videos of the horse run. I said, I've seen the barrels. I don't need to see the barrels. I said, I want to spend time with him in his stall. I do want to ride him around a little bit, but I just want to spend time with the horse. I don't need to make a barrel run.
Right.
I've seen him make a barrel. I need to figure out what type of horse this is and whether he's going to, enjoy being with me.
I love that so much, so much. Yeah. So I guess besides horses, is there any exotic animals or is there any unique animals at your house, or have you already done that?
Well, we've already done that. When the kids were growing up, we had various different, we've raised lion cubs here. We've raised clouded leopard cubs here. They're so cute. They're about this big, They're just teeny little things. So we've raised, we've had all kinds of cats here that we've raised, and, an anteater once, and, oh God, I don't know, a whole host of things. But no, we actually, my husband trains protection dogs. So we have Shih Tzu dogs, protection dogs, German Shepherds.
Wow.
And then,
cool.
but you can train anyway. I've got a cat that we call Trailer Kitty because she goes to my barrel races with me. She rides in the front seat on console.
Oh my.
Free. And I trained her. People say, well, you can't train a cat. Well, I got her as a rescue at 2 weeks of age, and I trained her to go into her kennel. I unzip it. She goes flying in there because she knows we're going somewhere, and then, put her in the truck, unzip it, off we go down the barrel race, and she's really good because if I'm starting to fall asleep, a little varmint will come up and bite me, It's like, I'm like, oh, all right, Stormy, I got it. I'm awake.
I'm awake. That
awake.
is so cool. I love you took that challenge of training a cat.
Yeah, training the cat. That was something. I had to think about that. I'm like, if we can train lions, I ought to be able to train this doggone little
I guess so.
Yeah. I mean, because
Makes
we train lions and tigers to take, diabetic lions or tigers to take insulin shots.
Really?
every
Okay.
day.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
We're running out of time, but how in the world do you do that? That's a cool deal.
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and now 102.3